Hey, everybody. I'm Steve Alexander, Dr. A. This is the award-winning RotoWire Fantasy Basketball Podcast. It is Tuesday, February 13th. That dude with the RotoWire swag is Bob Nastanovich, my buddy from the band Pavement. And when we come back, we're going to take a look at a busy Monday night.
Eventful.
Did Victor Wembanyama do anything? I'm not sure. I missed it.
You feel
Bob, what's happening?
Not much, man. How are you? I just wanted to mention that when you get your RotoWire, it's a pretty incredible thermal mug. It keeps the coffee or the hot beverage of your choice hot forever. This Camelback brand is insane, dude. RotoWire cuts no corners with the merch.
You know, Bob,
you've got an older cup.
You're making me mad now because I don't have that big, sweet Camelback.
Yeah, well, you're kind of lower down the totem pole than I am, Doc. This is look at the size of that logo. People can see you if you looked over at another car on the highway, you'd be like, whoa, that's a RotoWire person.
I can't even tell what that is. The logo's so big, it doesn't even fit in the screen. It just either says Roto or Wire.
I'll try to do it properly. Roto. Yeah. Oh, it's hard to get the angles right on these things. Anyways, Congratulations, my friend, for your induction into the Fantasy Sports Writing Hall of Fame. That's rare. Of course, you're as OG as it gets when it comes to fantasy sports writing, and I'm proud of you as a man in his late 50s who's in no Hall of Fames. But it is a pretty remarkable thing that you've worked towards from the start.
Well, thank you very much. It is funny because people are like, so I didn't know there was a Fantasy Sports Writers Hall of Fame. And I'm like, well,
because of you, now we do.
It's not really that well known that it's out
like
there.
40 people.
There's 40 people in that thing. And I like the fact that it's a small number. I like the fact that there's only 2 of us that got in.
You're OG.
This year. It's hard. It's
like
not
how old is the craft? How old is the craft of fantasy sports journalism? 20 years?
I think the Hall of Fame started in 2010, and then I think I started my career around 2000. And I think the earliest that people were writing about fantasy sports, at least online, would have been like 95 to 2000. But before that, it was all magazines. You know the drill.
Oh, yeah, no, it was, if you go way back, and as far as I can tell, it was obviously, it was like 95 or like 100% NFL at the very start of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like the only thing available to the normal junkie was the NFL, and then baseball and the NBA came after that.
My experience is a little different because I started out in baseball. Because baseball, the term roto comes from baseball.
Right.
And I think baseball might have been the first actual fantasy league, but you're right. NFL has always been king. And I think I'm the only basketball writer in the Hall of Fame. And, I was always told.
Really?
I was always told that basketball was like the redheaded stepchild of fantasy sports. Like, nobody really cared about it, but it was something that we had to cover. But I think if you look at how things are today, with the international attention that basketball gets across the world compared to the other 2 sports, I would argue that it's just as big as the other ones. But
I played all 3, and I've played all 3 for many years. In fact, I don't really play the NFL anymore because really for a number of reasons. Obviously my interest in the NFL has waned as a fan in general, and that's sort of the root of being a fantasy sports fan. You've got to be like, it helps to be a reality fan. Like, some people can get away with it, but it's like, if somebody who's bet on sports for a long time, illegally, and now I'm pleased to say legally, thanks to the new rules. But yeah, basically, you're always looking for an angle for action, and fantasy for over 25 years provided that angle. And again, the one that were people. I mean, the appeal of the NFL would be you don't have to have a favorite team, obviously, just like fantasy sports in general. And but your favorite team the best if you have one. But then the other sort of remarkable thing about it is that, it really keeps your finger on the pulse. If you care, I've had some really awful teams, including this year, my NBA team is just, one of those teams that probably was never meant to be very good in the first place and has been riddled by injuries. But you still have to try because it's unfair to the teams. You can't. It is a weird thing. Is there an actual term for that in fantasy when a team just gets so frustrated with their team, or just where they just I feel
stop setting lineups?
Yeah. I mean, there should be some sort of there should be a moniker for that type of person, because that person could have been really competitive the first half of the season, and then if you catch them on your schedule at the right time, you're gonna do them because they're just not doing a thing,
Yeah, there should be a name for those people, and I could name those people after people that I know, famous people that I know who don't set their lineups, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
I mean, if it was me, then you could do. I'd be more than happy to take that name, but I always set my lineups. Well, this
guy's being a real Nastanovich.
Exactly. Yeah.
He didn't set his lineup for 2 weeks.
For a week, and so-and-so 8-1 him, and now I'm the 3 seed in the playoffs,
Speaking of which, I'm sitting here in third place in our main rock and roll league trying to take out the king, Stephen Malcolmus. I'm trying to track down Brian from Guster, and then you come waltzing in last week with your horrible record in last place standing and just whoop me. That was painful.
It was one of those rare weeks in which you had significant injuries, and then basically every single time I needed one of my useful players to play, they played unusually well. I think I got a 40+ point game from Brandon Ingram, which I think is a first this year. Yeah, no, it's just one of those incredibly lucky weeks. I mean, there's a lot of weeks where I've been up 7-2 going into Saturday and lost 2-7,
Yeah.
But that's just a sign of a bad team. It is weird when you're trying to piece things together, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of challenging. You discover guys again, I'm 25 games out of a playoff spot, so that's it's all unrealistic at this point. But it's still fun to play because paying attention to your fantasy team, even if they're awful, just benefits you as a sports bettor as well. It kind of puts your, and again, I watch as much NBA as I can. I intersperse that with insane amounts of college basketball, unlike you. Virginia's been on a real roll. That's my alma mater. So I've been watching them a lot. And there's been, college basketball is starting to heat up.
I watched some Indiana State University Sycamores this morning. They're hot.
They're in insane form, and they've got kind of a very unusual player.
Deni Avdija.
Yeah, they've got a guy that just kind of plays the college game at his own pace. It's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool league. That's the they're in the MVC with actually Murray State joined that league, and Belmont, and Drake. See, I lived 1.5 miles from Drake. I saw Doug McDermott play in a tiny gym there. Those Wichita State teams before they moved out of that league, it was almost unfair. And
Bob, if we don't start talking fantasy NBA,
so what about Doug McDermott? Didn't he just get traded?
If we don't start talking fantasy hoops, these people are going to revolt.
You saying that he doesn't have any fantasy value, Doug McDermott?
They're going to come through the screen and take us. They're going to pull a Nastanovich on us.
That'd be awful. Yeah, we don't want that happening.
All right, Jimmy Butler is out through the All-Star break due to a death in the family. Sorry, Jimmy, that stinks. Tough on everybody involved, and Jimmy. When he's healthy, you never know when he's going to play or not play. And I think it's going to be a rough trip down the stretch for Jimmy Butler managers, just because he's just going to be chilling out trying to get to playoff basketball, and I don't know. It just stinks that he's missed enough games already, and then to have something like this happen is just too bad for him and his family. So,
they've had a very unbelievable month. I mean, it started with Hawkes's groin, and then he went out of the loop. And then just that game against the Celtics the other day, I mean, I thought they might have lost Jay Rich for a significant period of time. And obviously he's like, a fringe fantasy guy. But then Rozier, who was really just starting to click with that team in every way, shape, and form, like timing and everything. And like you could see Rozier heading into like a 10 to 15 game run where he would kick it. Now he's going to be out. He's got to be out till after the All-Star break, right? I mean, that looked nasty. He got lucky. That looked like it could have been a season ender when he went down.
Rozier is week to week with knee pain.
Yeah, I mean, that's fortunate. I mean, and then in the same game, Jaylen Brown really, I mean, it was kind of a grim play. I don't think he's generally known as a dirty player, but he tried to hurt Duncan Robinson, is what it looked like.
Yeah.
That's all beside the point. But, they are in a position where when they have the full deck, which of course very much includes Jimmy Butler, that they are a team, if they're like in the 7th or 8th playoff spot, then you don't want to face them. Obviously, recent history would say so. And they've got incredible depth and talent. And I think Rozier is a good ad. So, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, if you've got Jimmy Butler on your team, then I don't know how you're right now. I mean, it's pretty limited if you're looking at the waiver wire, at least in the leagues I play in. I mean, I just picked up Ben Simmons. I never really thought I would do that.
I mean, he's available in our league too. I looked at him, and I swore I would.
He was. I grabbed him. I just grabbed him because
I should have.
Basically, he's been Ben Simmons for the last 2 games for the first time in 4 Fs. And but I was amazed last night watching that Mavericks game against the Wizards when it briefly looked like the Wizards might win the game. Then, of course, reality set in. I just can't believe that they got Gafford, who I basically seem is – I mean, I can't believe that he's – to me, he's just a proper, like, double center. He's like a young, athletic Capella at this point, I think Gafford, I mean, that's an incredible move. And I think that Buddy Hield's going to work out for the Sixers. And Buddy Hield's, I imagine, there's a lot of leagues where he's available because his stats kind of plummeted when he went through one of his cold streaks for the Pacers.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into that Dallas game. So Luka took over the game late, 26, 11, 15, 10th triple-double of the season. He's second in the league in scoring. He's 20th in rebounds, 3rd in assists, 9th in steals, 2nd in three-pointers. He left the game for 5 minutes after taking a shot to the face, or he would have done even more. He came back in late. They overcame a huge deficit, like you said, easily won the game. Luka's standing out there just bombing threes in people's faces, making
amazing
full-length passes, court passes, putting it right on the hands of dudes. Like, he's just incredible to watch still, I think. Gafford, 16 points, career high 17 rebounds.
He's a beast. I mean, how did I just can't believe it.
2 steals and 5 blocks.
I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, that's the second best performance of the night by a center. And on a normal night, it would have been the best performance.
So here's my question for you, Bob. Dallas is now the number 8 seed in the West, right? Luka's MVP odds. He's at plus 1,000. Embiid's kind of off the board. So right now it goes Jokic, SGA, Giannis, and then Luka. And Jokic is a crazy, like, minus 140. SGA is plus 270. Giannis is plus 650. And Luka's at 1,000. With PJ Washington and Gafford both coming into Dallas and Kyrie Irving healthy again, the Mavs are like 2 wins away from being in 4th or 5th place. Is Luka somebody you would put MVP money on right now?
What are the odds on Giannis?
650.
I would split a bet on Giannis. and Luka. I'd split 10-1 and 6.5-1. I would definitely split, because I just don't think that, and I don't know how it works out with the balloting, but I just can't see SGA winning unless there's significant injuries. I mean, there's already been the one injury that moved him up one spot. And then when it comes, I mean, I'm not saying if you bet against Jokic, you're betting on him to miss a certain number of games and not be eligible. But that, technically could be a factor. But it's not, I mean, it would have to be a real and significant injury, because they're not going to sit him at this point with the cluster mess that is the Western Conference standings and where they want to get seeded in the end. And I think that they're going to, the thing that always really concerns me about the Nuggets is the potential fragility of Jamal Murray.
But you went down last night. Did you know that?
And I think he's so brilliant, but he's got so many old scars. And even that really sort of incredible game against the Lakers, it was, 98% of a fantastic basketball game the other day. And then they just put him away. And it was really Jamal Murray that put him away as much as Nikola. Well, I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, Jamal Murray's brilliant. He's sort of the key to the Nuggets. I mean, he's the key to the Nuggets to me. I mean, because you can watch Jokic 75 nights a year, and you're going to get the same incredible high level. What he brings has to be the most unpleasant player in the league to play against in every way, shape, and form. And, I mean, yeah, if he plays 75 games this year, there's no way he's going to tail off. Then the MVP market's not really even a factor, because he'll win it. I mean, I hate to say that, but if you are betting on those other two odds guys, and their odds are attractive, and they're both, and including SGA, they're all MVP quality players, but he's just got an edge. His passing just gives him the edge. I mean,
I would just say that Luka's 10 triple doubles, and the fact that Luke is basically going to lead the league in scoring. He's doing all this other stuff. Like his lines and his stats pop. Like they have MVP pop to them. So do Giannis's.
Totally.
So do Jokic's. Like those are the three guys. Like Jason Tatum doesn't really pop. Kawhi doesn't really pop. Jalen Brunson sort of pops. But
Jalen Brunson Jalen Brunson has been unreal. But I mean, think about it this way: if you're drafting, if somebody, I don't know if this even happens. If we were drafting during the All-Star break for a team that just applied, a fantasy team, to All-Star break to the wire, which actually would be really complicated because there's a lot of factors involved. A late season fantasy team, and you had the first pick, you would be choosing between Doncic and Jokic. Would you not be?
For the number one pick?
If you got the number one pick, if we had a 12-team league or a 10-team league or whatever, and you got the number one pick in a fantasy league that starts after the All-Star break, who would you take first?
Well, I had one of those that started 2 weeks ago, and I took Joel Embiid 2 days before he was gone for the season.
That's just bad luck. Okay, so who would you have taken with the second pick, though?
Well, for me, the answer is almost always Luka. However, this whole Wembanyama thing, that's something I want to talk to you about. We need to talk about not only if we were starting the league right now this year, but what about next year? Like, where is Wemby going in drafts next year? Which I want to talk to in a second, but I want to get back. I want to cover these two injuries and then dive
definitely. Absolutely.
Dive into that, because Donte DiVincenzo went down last night with a hamstring injury. He had 23 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 5 3-pointers. No update as of last night. He left the game kind of early. I don't think he came back at all. That means Josh Hart is going to go off. Alec Burks and Bojan Bogdanovic are going to get run. But, man, I cannot afford to lose Donte DiVincenzo. And then Jamal Murray, like we talked about, sat the entire second half with a leg injury. He had 3 points on 1 of 5 shooting. Reggie Jackson is the pickup there if that injury is serious. I would say Hart's probably already rostered everywhere. I think the pickups are Reggie Jackson and Alec Burks for those 2 injuries.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, it's one thing about DiVincenzo is his right arm could use a break. We call that a pump arm. I mean, the guy has just been. The Knicks. It's been pretty amazing. The Knicks have been, incredibly offensively challenged because of the injuries to Brunson and Julius, and that guy basically is a 6th, 7th man on a full deck Knicks team, and he's proven that he can be a 25 to 35 point a night guy, and it's all built around his 3 and his quick release. But I mean, it's incredible timing by the Knicks because, I mean, they made such incredible reality moves, and on top of everything else, they got 2 shooters. I mean, right before DiVincenzo gets hurt. And then, I mean, Precious Achiuwa, who was like 10th man for the Raptors, not playing at all, since he got pressed into like 35 to 40 minute a night duty, he's been insane. That guy was a pickup steal right after the Randall injury. I mean, he's been averaging like 37 minutes, and I don't have him in front of me, but he's had a lot of double-digit rebound games. He can score. I mean, basically everybody's worked the Raptors over in reality. I mean, it's amazing. It's kind of a shame. I like the Raptors in reality, but they've just gotten raked. But yeah, Alec Burks is going to get his opportunities, and then if he's sitting there, and I don't know how much longer is Brunson out. Is he back right after the All-Star break? He's back now. He played last night. He was in that Rockets game last night. He was in that crazy Rockets game. I heard about the ref. Apologize, I didn't watch it, but Brunson's back. McBride survived all that. But yeah, I mean, if you want to try to replace DiVincenzo, I would kind of look elsewhere, because those guys to me are from a fantasy perspective just in whichever one's hotter on the night.
Well, I'm just hoping that DiVincenzo's back tomorrow night. That's
he should be. Is he on your team?
Yeah, he's on all my teams. So yeah, and it's incredible that the Knicks have been able to overcome losing OG Anunoby and making a big trade and losing Julius Randle and still are playing really well. And a lot of that is credit to Jalen Brunson.
He's amazing. I mean, if he's the biggest overachiever in the league in every way, shape, and form, the guy's just insane.
Okay, I mean, we're going to talk Wemby. We're going Wembanyama. Should have been the leadoff today.
Well, it was meant to be, Steve, but I threw you off your schedule. My bad.
It's okay. It's okay. I like you. You keep me on my toes, Bob. You're being a real Nastanovich right now.
Yeah, that's synonymous. It means pain in the ass.
No. Wembanyama, 27 points, 14 rebounds, 10 assists. 10
blocks.
He had 5 assists. He had 2 steals. He had 7 turnovers. It's his second career triple-double. He's the first triple-double with blocks since Clint Capella did it in 2021. He's the 4th rookie to triple-double with blocks and the first since David Robinson did it in 1990. He's the 5th player in NBA history with 25 points, 10 rebounds, 10 blocks, and 5 assists in a game, joining Hakeem Olajuwon, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, David Robinson, and Ralph Sampson, all 5 of who are in the Hall of Fame. Somebody on Twitter was complaining about Wemby's turnovers. 4.7 a game in February is annoying, but I mean, who really cares when he's doing stuff like this? I feel like the Spurs don't really run that many plays for Wemby. I feel like for the first half of the season, some of his teammates were even possibly keeping the ball away from him. This dude's a freak. First of all, did he pass Chet for Rookie of the Year race last night? And secondly, where is he going in fantasy drafts, either if we're doing it this year or next year?
Right now, I think he'd go in the top 15, and next year I would expect him to go in the top 6. I think you'll see. I mean, obviously, last night's stat lines were insane, but I think you'll see stat lines more like this from this guy as he consistently plays, 27 to 32 minutes a night going forward as he grows. I think basically, if you assess his season from start to right now, he's lived up to expectations. I mean, we kind of expected a bumpy road. He's a very unusual player. I think when you talk about the first significant part of the season and his teammates sort of getting used to him, I think it's difficult for any set. He's just so atypical. He's got such an atypical skill set that, it takes time. Really the most significant stat last night is the Spurs, who've been just an incredible first half team the whole year and a terrible second half team, that, obviously it's a very beleaguered Raptors squad, but they won the game by over 20. But he did everything right. And, when a guy blocks 10 shots and is 7'3" or whatever, he's affecting an incredible amount of shots. He's just basically, it's been a gradual process like it is for essentially every younger rookie. There's very few rookies who come in the league, like, guys like Brogdon and Hawkes, who are basically 23-year-old men, when they come into the league. This guy's, he's young. He's still growing into his body. Kind of reminds me of a racehorse that's really, really tall and takes a long time to fill out before they become sort of the finished package. And I just think you'll see more. Obviously, you're not going to see 10 blocks every night. You'll see plenty of 6 block games from him. The scoring, this was always going to be a process with Popovich. And I think basically they are really right on schedule in every way, shape, or form with Victor and their team. I think they'll finish. I wouldn't be surprised, with the remainder of their schedule if they were, 500 or better. I don't know how tough their schedule is, but I mean, you certainly don't want to be in the West right now and be looking down at the Spurs in the last month. I just think, he's got fantastic value in every way, shape, or form. And when you talk about the turnovers, I'm not really worried about that in the least, because when you have a guy like that, he puts up the stats like he does, if he turns the ball over 3 or 4 times a game, and it will go down with experience, they've got a team, again, obviously what they do in the offseason, what they do in the draft is going to be pretty significant. But it'd be nice if they were a much improved team next year. They've got some really thoroughly likable players in every way, shape, every way you can imagine on the team. And what's the guy's name? How do you say his name? Sohan. They've asked him to play point guard for the first time in his life. He's 6'9", and he's a super cool guy. I think he'll be worth drafting. Vassell is always great to have in points.
Vassell had 26 points, 6 assists, 5 triples last night. Here's my thing
love
about
that guy. I love him.
I do too. And I've got him and Wemby on the same team, and we're rolling usually, except when we play your team. But the thing I love about this Wemby year is everybody was like, oh, don't draft him too early. Pop's not going to play him. Oh, don't draft him too early. He's too skinny. He's going to get hurt. All of this stuff. And I was like, I'm not listening to anyone. I'm drafting Wemby everywhere. And he's doing everything I hoped he would do and more. And the Spurs, their whole thing is we want to let him play this year, figure out, really get a full evaluation of his talent and his skill set and his game, and then try to build a team around him for next year and going forward, where we try to really become competitive and try to win a championship. So my thing is
right on schedule. They're right on schedule. It's an 82 game test drive.
When I'm going into next year's draft season, if I get the number 1 pick, it's going to be a very tough decision for me between Wemby and Luka, let alone Jokic being thrown in there too. So I think Wembanyama is going to be a popular number 1 overall pick in fantasy hoops next year.
It's not the kind of thing I would do. Personally, I think that I just think that if you think about him versus, again, everybody in the NBA is fragile. I mean, we've seen some guys that are built like steel trucks go down for significant periods of time. I mean, Marcus Smart, Jalen Brunson, you just don't think about those guys getting hurt. And Brunson's playing like 100 minutes a game, so it's going to happen. But, like, that's the thing that always concerns me about Victor, and I'm pleased that he's played as many games as he has this year. And, I don't know if he's entirely missed any. But it's just like with Holmgren. I just worry about guys, from a fragility standpoint, whereas it would just be a shock to me if Jokic especially sat out for extended periods of time. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. And Doncic seems to be one of those guys that, even though he gets injured and banged up, he knows how to take care of himself. That's another process of being a superstar in the NBA in every way, shape, and form, fantasy, reality. Everything is – you've got to learn how to use your body. And there's obviously a lot of injuries that are entirely wildly fluky that you can't prevent. But I saw a pretty brilliant play by the aforementioned Jamal Murray recently, in which it's almost like he's practiced with his, former ACL, how to get out of the way when somebody rolls up on him. I mean, so that's the thing about Wemby and his frame, is that I think it's just high risk to take him at 1, but I think if you got, somewhere between the 3 and the 7 pick, then it would be pretty intriguing, I don't see how in the world you could not take an entirely healthy Jokic or Doncic with the 1 pick.
Well, I would just say this. Wemby has been a first-round fantasy value as an 18, 19-year-old rookie in this league, despite all the turnovers, despite not knowing what he's doing. And he has the potential next year to put up monster numbers in every statistical.
Unquestionably, yeah.
It's crazy. I'm all in if I can get him, but I don't know. It's just nuts. Speaking of
rebounds, blocks, crazy. I mean, I think he'll be I think eventually he'll be a 25-point a game scorer. He's not going to hurt you with threes. What does he do from the line? It's like a 75% guy, right?
He's not going to hurt you.
Yeah,
he's not going to hurt you. And Luka's a little bit better this year, but still not great. Hey, your Toronto Raptors last night were an absolute disaster in that game, by the way. Grady Dick led the team with 18 points off the bench. Gross. Kelly Olynyk.
He's been doing that. He's been, because it's one of those situations like the Grizzlies where, they work their way down into their G League.
Pick a Raptor.
He's a high-profile G League. He's a high-profile G League player.
Right.
I mean, look at what happened to G.G. Jackson. I saw him in plain clothes last night for the Grizzlies. He's been rolling up some fantasy stats.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Hopefully it's a brief one. He's 19. He's been a pretty cool story, as has Vince Williams, the VCU guy, who really, if he's sitting there undrafted because people don't know who he is in any league you're playing, he's going to be playing.
Him on that team. I've got him on that team in our league too. I've had him.
You got a sexy team, Steve. You have a very sexy team. You're liable to win the whole thing.
Kelly Olynyk had 17 points, 5 boards, 3 steals last night. Like for the Raptors, I'm thinking if he's sitting out there, with the way Jakob Poeltl's been so quiet this year, I think Olynyk is a guy that you need to think about picking up. I'm not really racing out to pick up Grady Dick.
I would never pick up Grady Dick for a lot of reasons. Olynyk is one of those guys we need to assess what stat categories you need. Even though I don't know. I mean, I know the guy's a useful player in reality. I think he does good things at both ends of the floor, but I just don't. I think it's like fantasy desperation mode. I've picked up more guys than I ever have in any league I've ever played in this year, and I still haven't hit the Olynyk button.
All right, we're gonna go quick hits right here because we're running out of time, and I still have a bunch of guys I want to
cover.
How
long's the show supposed to be?
An hour.
Okay, cool. Oh, you've got other guys to get to. Because I'm on all those horse racing radio shows where you're trying to kill time. Like, again, I'm rambling.
Is that what happens in horse racing shows? Because in these shows, we run out of time every time.
Okay, so what happened? Well, that's lovely. It must be very nice luxury on your part. And I do one show on Thursdays where it's a 2-hour show, and we've got like 6 live races. So we've got like basically 11 minutes of horse racing and an hour 49 of, okay, what are we going to talk about now? So anyways, yeah, quick hits, fire away. Let's move to the next guys. They're probably significant. They're probably not Nastanovich's.
Oh man, that's just wrong. So 4 Bulls last night scored at least 20 points. Coby White is having a dream season in my estimation. Like,
fantastic,
so good.
I think he leads the league in minutes played, close to it.
He's just been so fun. And then Dosunmu, who was a hot pickup a couple weeks ago and kind of fizzled, led the team with a season-high 29.7 assists and 5 triples last night. He's picked it up over his last 2 games. He's kind of shooting lights out in those games. I think that's the reason for the turnaround. I think if just Dosunmu is sitting out there in your league, you pick him up.
Well, hold on now. You got to take that with a grain of salt. I'm one of the biggest fans of Dosunmu in the world. Loved him when they drafted him. Loved him at Illinois. I mean, I think it's been great to see him get more playing time this year because of the Levine injury to sort of strut his stuff. But and I know that you got to put an asterisk next to all games against the Hawks. Teams have career games against the Hawks.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, it was fantastic was what Dosunmu did last night, that stat line, but I wouldn't expect that again for a long time, probably until he's at State Farm Arena again, my friend.
Are you saying that 60 that Steph Curry put up against the Hawks was not a fluke, and the 73 that Luka put up, not a fluke?
I'm saying there isn't a player in the league that doesn't lick his chops when he sees at Atlanta on the schedule. I mean, because it's just I've been to a half dozen games there this year, including some incredibly grim display against the Cavaliers. And it's anti-defense. It's anti-defense with no communication. So you're going to see, again, in fact, that needs to be a factor. If you're looking at picking up a guy for 1 or 2 games and one of them is going to be at Atlanta, underline that. That's a good thing to do.
It's at Atlanta or at Indiana. Either one of those works.
Yeah, especially at Atlanta, because whatever's going on with the Pacers, they're changing their whole vibe. They had a horrible loss last night to the Hornets. Come on, man.
Speaking of Atlanta, right on time. There's a lot of chatter now that the trade deadline has passed, that the Hawks may be intent on keeping Dejounte Murray and trading Trae Young this summer.
As a Hawks fan, I'm cool with that.
In the midst of all that, Trae goes 3 of 14 last night. Still had 19 points, 14 assists.
Cost him the game.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the Hawks maybe keeping Dejounte and trading Trae Young?
I'm all for it. I think Murray's a better player. I mean, look, Trae Young's spectacular. He does all-star things and stuff like that. But like, in terms of winning games in the NBA, until he's on a team that wins a playoff series, he's just one of those guys that's an NBA superstar that, from a reality perspective, from a fantasy perspective, he's fine, despite the 3 for 14. That's a rarity. I mean, his field goal percentage is fine. I mean, his guy always has fantasy value. His reality value is questionable. And I think that they can build a different sort of team. And I think Murray has proven, first of all, that team is entirely dysfunctional in every way, shape, and form. I mean, I hate to get brutal, but I think they need to make a coaching change. And it is very nice, almost sexy to see, and I hope it keeps up, DeAndre Hunter playing better since he's come back from his injury. But I think he had a good game, another good game last night, 23 and 6 or something.
He had 23. That. Bogdan had 28.
Yep.
There's still too many forwards in Atlanta. They didn't get rid of any of them. So, but Hunter's had 23 and 27 in 2 of his last 4. I still don't really trust him. Bogey, that's his first 20-point game in his last 6. So when you got Sadiq Bey and Jalen Johnson and Bogey and
So
Hunter
Kongwu's been playing great.
All there together, man, it's impossible to have all of them play well on the same night. And then
they need to make some major changes. Kongwu's had some great games recently.
Kongwu's been awesome without Capella. Yeah. Absolutely.
Bey's one of the most unpredictable guys in the league. I mean, he's had a great season overall, but from a fantasy perspective, I'd never get Sadiq Bey right.
Yeah, no, thank you. But I mean, he has big games. I mean, they just rotate.
That's what I'm saying.
They all rotate big games. You mentioned Buddy Hield in Philly, 24 and 8 assists last night. He scored
fantastic,
at least 20 points in all 3 games since the trade.
That's really happy.
You've got Kelly Oubre hitting 10 of 14 shots.
Wonderful win for them.
24 last night with 5 triples. Yeah. Those are 2 guys that should be rostered everywhere with the way Philly's banged up.
Yeah, no, I mean, those guys are going to have to play 30-plus minutes a night, and I think they're both built for it. I mean, Oubre always concerns me because I'm worried about him hurting himself because he's a high flyer who just throws his body around. Hield's a great pickup by them. Hield's like a miracle steal. I mean, just fantastic. No, Hield was sitting there when he was a Pacer. Hield was pretty much always on the because he was always available. But yeah, no, if you haven't snapped him up now, if he's sitting there, get him. Grant
Williams in Charlotte traded from the Mavericks in the whole PJW deal. Yeah. He had 21 points, 4 boards, 3 assists off the bench last night. His other game for Charlotte, he had 15 points and 8 boards. He rarely did that in Dallas this year. He was horrible. So he
didn't have the opportunity really overall, unless they were, had a few injuries, I mean, he just, again, he seems like the kind of guy that all he's ever needed is PT, and he's got total fantasy value. And I think, Grant Williams is a great pickup if you need a big, let's just call him a big, but he can hit, he hits plenty of threes. He just needs to play.
He was playing for Dallas. He just wasn't doing anything because he was like the 5th option. I just didn't look to him very often. And, we kind of thought
he played himself down the bench. He did play himself down the bench. He was playing.
Yeah, well, we thought Dallas was going to need him on offense, and they didn't. And it just didn't work out. So I think he's a guy worth keeping an eye on right now. And if you need a warm body that's big, he fits that bill. Precious Achiuwa, like you said, he had 17 rebounds last night, 3 blocks, 8 points. He was probably
studying fitness, man. That guy's so fit.
He was probably already picked up in most leagues by now, but just make sure he's not available. In your league,
unless you hate rebounds.
Are you?
And high field goal. The other thing about him, he has incredibly good judgment. Just about every shot he takes is a high percentage shot. You'll get over 50.
I feel like Okongwu's sort of the same way. Okongwu shoots it well from 3. Okongwu's hands just aren't as good as some other guys, some other bigs.
He'll get there.
But I love Okongwu. Amen Thompson had 8 points, 13 boards, 5 assists, 5 steals last night. He's kind of been balling in February for the Houston Rockets. I think Amen should be rostered everywhere by now.
Yes. I mean,
what about Ausar? What about Ausar?
Frustrating, in and out, unpredictable. And his minutes are too. I mean, it's wonderful to see the Pistons playing better basketball and stuff like that. But yeah, they're working out their pieces. They've got a lot of pieces, and playing time. There's a lot of guys that'll play 8 minutes one night and 23 the next, and essentially their stat lines, logistically will coincide with their minutes played, and that guy, it's a yo-yo his minutes played, so it'll drive you crazy.
Lost in all the Wemby hype last night was Giannis with 36, 18, 5, 3, and 2 in a win over Denver, in which Jokic played pretty well. We had a Klay Thompson sighting last night, Bob. 26 points with 3 3-pointers, hit 11 and 19 shots. He said after the game, man, I felt like myself. I felt like everything was back to normal. It felt really good to do that. Like, what are the chances this is not a full lost season for Klay Thompson?
I mean, I think it's already a lost season, but I mean, he could, if they if they become a playoff team, then he can be Klay Thompson during the playoffs. I mean, there's a lot of guys in that position that have immense amounts of experience that might be able to save their seasons with a playoff push. But
can he be Klay Thompson for the rest of the regular season? Like, could this game last night
no
kick off a run where people will run out and pick him up?
No, because I mean the same thing happened to Wiggins the other day. He had a 2010 sort of game, and I mean again, those guys, those two pieces in particular. I mean, basically the waiver wire steal, and obviously it's 60 days old news at this point, has been Kuminga on that team. They're basically operating with a full deck now. I mean, the guys that Saric is a guy that he's another guy that sometimes puts up fantasy type numbers of significance and worth. I mean, you just can't tell when that's going to happen from the likes of 3 or 4 players on that team.
Golden State plays 3 times this week, or play. Now they have 2 left this week.
Yeah, so if you're going to take a shot, now's the time for
But they also play 3 games next week. So Saric was sitting out there in my league, and I was like, in our league. And I was like, do I pick up Saric? And kind of screwed up and picked up Keontae George. I didn't really study the schedule like I should have before I made my move. But I think Klay is worth at least keeping an eye on. If he gets his head on right, he might be able to turn around. I mean, if you picked up Ben Simmons and I was thinking about picking up Ben Simmons, anything is possible with Klay Thompson.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, first of all, I don't think he's available in that league, but at the same time, Klay Thompson, especially if you need threes.
Well, that's true too. Because Klay has been dropped in a lot of leagues, but
but he's the kind of guy that gets dropped. That happens a lot. Fantasy sports, that whole high expectation thing, and people get pissed with guys. How many people have gotten pissed with Andrew Wiggins this year?
Oh, he's terrible.
I mean, that kind of thing. So I mean, then those guys sort of turn the corner. I mean, how many? I mean, basically, the entire history of RJ Barrett as a Knick was people having high expectations during the draft for RJ Barrett, and then getting pissed with RJ Barrett after a month, and then him going on a 2-week hot streak. And now he's a Raptor. Both those guys are Raptors, him and Quickly, and they're basically, to me, they're doing slightly better for the Raptors. I mean,
I thought Quickly was going to be better than he has been.
What about Schrader? Now, who'd Schrader just go to? Dennis Schrader. He just left the Raptors and went to somebody else. And he's a wildly unpredictable fantasy guy.
Where is Schroeder? By the way, Josh Richardson's hurt. He's out for a while. You were talking about that at the beginning.
Yeah, no, he took a nasty shot in the shoulder.
Yeah, he's gonna miss some time.
Ooh, that sucks.
Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, man, the Nets, man. Yeah, that's gonna be so weird to watch. But I mean, obviously, basically, he's there to replace Dinwiddie. What do you do with Dinwiddie? What do you do if Dinwiddie's just sitting there? What's he going to up with on the Lakers backing up Austin Reeves or something?
I think Dennis Smith Jr. has been better than Dinwiddie this season. Dinwiddie's been rough.
Dude, I've had him, man. It's been painful.
He's been bad.
Tell me. Yeah, but is he going to get a new lease on life, or is he just going to play valuable minutes for? I think he's going to be a Laker, isn't he?
Yeah, that's who you signed with.
I mean, it's pretty amazing in this day and age that you suck your way onto the Lakers. I mean, that's basically what the guy did. I mean, nobody saw that coming. I was so horrible for the Nets that the Lakers were chomping at the bit to get me, which I think is a real insult to the Skylar Mays guy, who might be the best pure point guard in LA right now. And I mean, obviously, aside from
Dinwiddie's not even a point guard. He's just a guard.
Yeah, he's just a guard. Yeah, to me, I think of him as more of a shooting guard.
Yeah.
He's just a weird. It's like, yeah, that's a weird pickup by the Lakers, but they'll probably. Yeah, God knows how long he'll even be there. I mean, he needs to. He'll end up somewhere and be useful on a team because he's a decent veteran player. Things just didn't work out. I mean, the Nets are so weird. There's such a much of a muchness. I mean, they're like the most unpredictable team in reality sports betting, anything. Fantasy.
Bob, are you a Deni Avdija guy?
No. In fact, he frustrated the hell out of me last night. Yeah, I win. He's definitely one of the best players in the league at making expressions of pain.
The flopping didn't work for you last night.
Yeah, no, I just think he's a BSer. And I've given my man Bill Al so many chances. I think he'll be. You're talking about guys going into their second year that are basically entirely unknown in the NBA. I think Coulibaly of the Wizards at some point might have significant fantasy value. I think he's a guy that you need to kind of keep an eye on the rest of this season and consider next year because he's like, with all due respect to him, he's almost like a poor man's Wemby. He's learning the game on the fly. He's got a really bright bunch of skills and a lot of talent, and he could be a pretty useful late round pick next year. I mean, I really enjoyed watching Coulibaly play next year. I imagine he'll be a Wizard next year, and I think he'll be climbing up the depth chart there.
I thought it might happen this year, and I think there's still time for it to happen late
this
year.
Time. It's taking time, but he's getting there.
Like once they throw the full silly season tank on in Washington, I could see Coulibaly coming on the last 3 weeks of the season, going on one of those tears. But as far as Deni goes, Avdija last night, he was down on the ground a lot, and the Dallas broadcasters were like, I can't really understand what made Deni Avdija go down like that. But
me neither.
At the same time, the dude had season high 25 points, 7 boards, 3 assists. He had 11 of 17 shots. He was making good moves at the basket. He was making good decisions. He actually looked really good last night, I thought, against Dallas. And
he's one of those guys I'd rather not watch and look at the stat line when the smoke clears. And there's a lot. There are guys like that. You've got so many that team. I mean, Tyus Jones is a guy that I've always loved. Obviously, I'm a Grizzlies fan, and it's nice to see him getting a lot of playing time, stuff like that. And he puts up solid Tyus Jones type numbers every night. If you need kind of a average point guard, if he's sitting around kind of guy, Kispert will drive you crazy. I mean, he's just a runs hot and cold kind of guy. And they are just such a weird team. But you sit down and watch them with 7 minutes to go in that game. They had a double-digit lead at one point. At no point did you feel they were going to win the game. I mean, it's just strange. But, Deni is one of those guys that, don't watch it, but you'll like what you see when the game ends.
I like watching him personally. But I'll tell you what, Gafford was going against his former team in that game last night too, which is probably part of the reason he went nuts. But
I don't know, man. That guy, like, no matter what, and
I like Gafford.
Gafford's great, man. I think Gafford is one of the best 12 centers in the league.
All right, Bob, let's answer some questions before we get out the door here. This is going to be impossible to answer because you and I are not doctors and we don't have new news on the injury yet. But Crowd Silencer wants to know how many games Donte DiVincenzo is about to miss. I'm going to say he's out through the All-Star break and then he'll be back the first game after that.
Same. I mean, also like when's Randall due back?
I think he's out a little bit longer after the break. And when Randall and OG and everybody comes back, then DiVincenzo is going to take a little bit of a hit, obviously. But
oh yeah, I mean, I mean, he's basically unquestionably because of his incredibly quick release and ability to hit threes. That's something that often happens on a lot of really good teams in the NBA is guys like that were eighth man, move their way into minutes. He's definitely earned more minutes on, and of course there's no more quickly, there's no more Barrett. There's just, he's at least a six man no matter what. And I think that he will. I don't know what the Knicks schedule is right after the All-Star break, but as soon as they need him in a high-profile game, he'll be back after the All-Star break. And I'm happy that it's not a significant injury because he definitely is lit up Madison Square Garden this year on a lot of nights when they really needed the excitement.
Well, they haven't told us how long he's going to be out. If they come out and say 3 to 4 weeks, then I'm going to have to think about dropping him and moving on. But because by the time he comes back, everybody else is going to be healthy. But I don't think I didn't see it. I didn't get to see it. I just know he went to the locker room and didn't come back. It's a hamstring. Hopefully it wasn't horrible and he'll just chill till after the break and be back. And hell, that news might be out there right now, and I'm just haven't been able to look at it. But Aditha, Bob, I'm gonna let you handle this one.
Yeah, no, I would say no. I mean,
he says the last place team is offering him Donovan Mitchell for his Nick Claxton and Daniel Gafford. Am I giving up too much?
I mean, it just depends. If Donovan Mitchell, I would imagine, is a huge source of your points and your threes, then it's just a tough call without looking at your lineup. But I think both of those, Claxton and Gafford, are very, very useful at what they do, and you're giving up one hell of a lot of rebounds and a significant amount of blocks and high field goal percentage and all kinds of other things. Pirtle's been banged up. Nurkic is quite valuable. Richards has shown some stuff, and I really haven't been. I mean, has Paul Reed been, since Embiid's been out, has he been putting up decent numbers or not?
Generally not. He's generally just disappointing. And
I mean, the other thing he could make that trade and then essentially look around for a replacement for basically Richards, Reed. I mean, it seems like there are centers that sort of float around.
Donovan Mitchell's been really good though.
He's been insane. Donovan Mitchell's been insane. Yeah.
And I think, like you said,
a lot of 40-point games. If you need points and threes on your team I assume that Aditya has perhaps a team that's going to be in the playoffs.
Well, it's like a 10-team. I think it's a 10-team league. So there's stuff on the waiver wire.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, yeah. That's an interesting thing. Yeah. I would basically, the only one of your centers to me who's a must keep is Nurk.
That's 12 team. It says 12 team. I know. I think he's in a 10-team league too.
15 category. But whoa, that's intense, dude. That's a very intense league. But
I knew there was something crazy about that league.
If you need points and threes, Donovan's a source, and he's not going anywhere unless he gets hurt. I mean, the guy's, he's got to be in the top 10 for MVP, right? Top 8.
And insane. It just depends on what your team needs. Like it depends on how crazy deep the centers are, and if centers are extra valuable because you have to play 2 of them. It depends on your center depth, which you've shown us. But
Donovan Mitchell, he's had a lot of high assist number games lately too, which has been kind of a new dimension. Obviously, a lot of that comes with Garland out, but he's definitely improved his all around game and become a better assist guy.
Deshaun wants to know, or is that Deshaun? Yeah. Can I drop Jordan Poole in a 12-team points league?
Yes.
I did not think we were going to be here. I did not see it coming. But that's where we are.
This question about Jordan Poole?
He's terrible. He's awful.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think you can definitely. Again, I'm not looking at your team, Deshaun, but yeah, I would confident, and I don't know how many ad drops or but that works. Maybe you got none, or very few or something like that. But I think Jordan Poole, whenever he gets 20, is just going to be when he's in Atlanta.
I can't believe how bad Jordan Poole is going to be. I thought he was going to be a league leader in scoring this year. I really did.
Or at least in the top 4 best Wizards.
At least there. And he's
not. He's not.
Trayton wants to know if he should drop Bohan Bogdanovich for either Marvin Bagley, Trey Mann, or Fontecchio.
Ooh, that's very tough.
Fontecchio got moved out of Utah. I don't think I'm feeling him anymore. I like the Trey Mann. I like the Bagley. Bagley had a double-double last night.
Bagley, I've always liked. Trey Mann's a massive source of frustration. I mean, I love the guy. He definitely has intrinsic value to the Clippers. Plays a lot of minutes, stuff like that. But he just defers to the superstars and Zubac on that roster when it comes to his stat categories. He's like the breakdown the defense 3-point guy from the corner with 2 seconds on the clock. I mean, he just very rarely to me puts up fantasy numbers. And Fontecchio is just a complete streaker. I mean, he can just have he's the kind of guy that could have a massive quarter. But Bagley, if healthy and focused, he can be a really useful guy. So I mean, it depends on what you need, but right now, at least for the short term, I'd keep an eye on Boji.
All right, last one, then we got to go. We're over an hour.
Damn.
They get mad at me if I go over an hour.
Hold it. He's talking about trading the Grizzlies for John Collins. You talking about trading the entire Grizzlies team for John Collins? Is that what he asking me? You're going to trade the entire Grizzlies team
Triple J
for John Collins? That's crazy. No, Triple J do not do John Collins, and I don't know. I mean, Triple J, he basically, by default, if the Grizzlies score 80 points in a game, he's going to get 25, 9 rebounds, 3 blocks, 4 assists, even though whatever. I mean, it's no Triple J you want right now. I mean, the
problem is we're all worried that they are playing for nothing and Triple J is going to be completely shut down by that team in like 10 days.
Have you heard that kind of talk?
Well, Desmond Bane's not coming back. John Morant's not coming back.
I know
you're
that.
Wondering where your guy Gigi is. Like
Gigi, man.
I'm worried about.
So you're saying
them worrying about next year.
They'll go to they're basically, I mean, obviously all their trade deadline moves, including the strangest trade of the year, which was Steven Adams for Victor Oladipo, then waive Oladipo. It's obviously a total money move. First of all, I didn't even know. I mean, I love Victor Oladipo. He was fun when I was young. But it's been a long time between drinks. And I did not hear anything about the shutdown. I mean, I live 2 hours from where the Grizzlies play. I get down there whenever I can. There was there's a whole bunch of empty courtside seats.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's why, I mean, it's mostly me and Rick Kamla probably sitting here like, when are they going to shut Triple J down? Because
I would say Christian needs to follow that story. And if it looks like, they're going to shut them down, then go ahead and trade because John Collins is a baller. That's the reason why he's the main reason why the Hawks are below 500 this year. John Collins, he was a great Hawk.
I do not want to trade Triple J for John Collins, even
if he's getting shut down. But if this guy knows he's getting shut down after the All-Star break, to make the move. I don't know. I would just follow that story.
I would want more. I would want more than John Collins.
Let me, Christian, send me your email address. I've got some season ticket holder friends at the Grizz. You might have some inside info for you on Triple J. I do, man. I got some guy the other night was trying to offer Guthrie courtside seats for a piece of art.
Kevin Guthrie, my man.
Yeah, Guthrie, man. He's moving art right now for courtside seats to games with 80 people at them. Does that sound like him?
That's awesome. I want to go to a game with you guys.
All right, man. Bob. Come on up.
We're going to do this again sometime. This was super fun. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we got into enough fantasy for y'all. I know sometimes I've music guys come on and people are like, oh, this is I'm just here to hear about fantasy sports and
yeah.
nerd
Well, I
out.
didn't say a word about music. I just jibber jabbered about other stuff.
You never talk about music, really. I think
No. I don't know anything about music. But David Roddy to the Phoenix Suns. It'll be interesting to see. Speaking of the Grizzlies, it'll be very interesting to see how the Suns utilize him if he's going to play at all. He's cool, man. He's a steal. That guy's got an NBA body.
You know what
just
else
like you and
cool?
me, buddy. Just like me, he's got that NBA. He's built for 100 games. A Hall of Famer.
You know what else is cool? This time of year, football's over. Baseball's getting started. We got the Masters coming. Then we got the Indy 500. Then we got the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
we got a whole summer of baseball. Like this is the best time of the year. March Madness. This
March Madness.
What a time to be alive, Bob.
It is great. Yeah, let's hope we make it till at least September this year. At this pace, I think we got a 50-50 shot, Steve.
All right, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Man.
And we'll see you all next time.
Best wishes to Deloniga.
Thank you, sir.
Yourself. Congratulations. Thanks for having me. See you soon.
Camlin, I'll be here on Thursday. See you guys.
All right. Love you, man.